Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show. We'll be getting the live stream on the backup channel underway in just a moment. Just before we do that, there's our little obligatory plug for Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. Please go to the channel and check out Rosa Corey's interview. And our show today is sponsored by the NZPP, Reclaiming New Zealand for All the People. Now, bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this is a listener-supported broadcast and has been for over a decade. So if you do like the show and like what you see, please consider donating and supporting it with your hard-earned bucks. And without, as they say in Israel, further ado, here we go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show, the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't make it fun. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state is Vinny's jokes. And my very special guest joining us today from the Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party, the joint leader, Maki Herbert. Maki, welcome to the program.
Oh, kia ora, Vinny, and thank you for your invitation to have a little bit of the media exposure that all small parties miss out on.
They do miss out on pretty much almost all media exposure, I think. And that's the great worry in any kind of democratic environment. Not that I believe in democracy per se, because I think everybody has inalienable rights that you can't take away, no matter who votes for to take them away. But yeah, at the end of the day, unless we're all talking to each other and hearing all different ideas, we're going to become and remain stagnant. So, Maki, today's sponsored by the New Zealand Public Party, Reclaiming New Zealand for All the People. Just wanted to get your first impressions of the party and Billy TK and what you think about them.
Personally, I really can't say too much other than we've got this party obviously for the people of New Zealand, Aotearoa, and MMP is part of that structure that we need parties to voice everyone's opinion and wants and needs in our society, and it's a shame that they've come at this end of the build up to the election. Otherwise we might have had some sort of common ground to maybe amalgamate at some stage, but it definitely won't be this year, of course. We're too far down the track now to allow any type of merge with any party. However, like I say, this new party is there for the people, and I'll be very keen to know what they're actually standing for.
Now, in terms of the Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party and what you've actually been standing for, outside the party is where you've done the most work in your community, delivering rongoa to the sick, to the elderly. Can you please tell people a little bit about your story as it relates to New Zealand cannabis policy?
Well, first of all, I've got to give my thanks and guidance to my elders that have allowed me to do what I do, and that is I'm a provider for Rawene Hospital and Whangarei Hospital in their cancer units, and I also do our local markets to put out what I call the cottage industry version of medicinal cannabis. And my oils are made through love and passion for the plant, because we are knowing now that how wonderful the plant is, and we've only been told a certain part of the cannabis picture. And so now, with all my work out in the markets at the ground level, people are being educated in cannabis, and for those ones that were really hard, old school, they've got no other choice but to try the cannabis remedies, whether it's mine or the doctors, because that's what they've got. They've got no other choice but to try something that the doctors aren't necessarily on board with.
Mm. Now, I noticed this trend with the doctors not being on board with cannabis when my daughter was in SCBU, the intensive care unit for babies, essentially, after she was born. And I showed these doctors a 44-second clip of a little baby having a seizure, being given cannabis oil, and then the seizure immediately stopping. And you know what both of these pediatricians told me? Oh, that could be the placebo effect. Like, oh, there's no evidence to say that works and that kind of thing. And no, cannabis doesn't do that. Even though they saw it with their own eyes.
They've been taught, and I suppose you called it some sort of indoctrination in their teaching, that cannabis is not part of their picture. So when you've got ignorance and people not wanting to actually open up their minds, particularly the health sector, who have taken a oath to look after and care for us in the best way they can. So we've got a stage now. We've got to the stage now in medicinal cannabis that a lot of doctors are at least opening up to the idea. I know that from our own area here in the Hokianga with the Rawene Hospital.
Right, and oh, I'm sorry, guys. We're having a little bit of backup channel problems here. I'm not sure what's happening there, but could you please continue, Maki?
Yeah, so the doctors, well, in my area, like I say, I'm very fortunate that they're forward thinking. I think predominantly Māori, where we are changing the picture of what hospitals and doctors are here for, and that is to take the holistic look at the person themselves, their culture, their age group, their gender, and build a case that's going to work for them, which is not necessarily mainstream, because we know that our bodies are basically the same. We have the same structures and everything, but our internal workings could be so different to each other. And in my work with the medicinal oils, that is so true. I have 2 products and they do a whole range of different things for a whole lot of different people and getting the results.
The technical term is a panacea, essentially a medication that kind of can work for almost anything that you throw it at, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Have you ever tried to treat somebody with cannabis for a condition where it hasn't worked or helped?
Yes, I have, and that's possibly because of my oil hasn't have a very strong potency level to it. So mine is 5% CBD and 5% THC. And there are some really compelling testimonials to say that mostly mine works, but sometimes it doesn't. So I will hand that person over to someone else that I know that Green Fairy has got the stronger oil for them.
And did the stronger stuff work?
Oh, well, I wouldn't be sending people to the person concerned who makes it if it didn't work. And I don't hear back from them to say that I put them onto someone that doesn't know what they're doing. So I suppose no news is good news as far as that is concerned. And the person that I've hooked up with to do this, they say that it's working for them too.
So basically, cannabis works for everything, but it's merely a question of the potency of the solution you're using.
That's right. So for a lot of people that have never had cannabis products at all, the less potency, the better for them. That's just how the body reacts. For people like myself, for example, who partakes in personal use every day, I would need a stronger potion or stronger oil potency than some. So, we can go from just oil, which is mine is a teaspoon a day. Some people it's only a drop a day. So what that means is that they've got more potency out of their cannabis than what I've been able to do myself at the lower end of the spectrum. And it's just amazing either way. whether it's a slam dunk oil, which is done in the syringe, that's what we come to terms as known as the Rick Simpson oil. That is a slam dunk. There's no getting away from it. You will be put on your backside. However, it is really necessary if you're suffering really, cancer, the real, on your deathbed almost. And so we go from the really strong potency to the very low potency. And the very low potency is the hemp CBD, even though that has a high percentage of CBD in the hemp, it's not as strong as what it is in the cannabis plant.
So for those people who are very anti-cannabis and they think that legalising it will destroy the children and things of that nature, what would you say to them?
What I do say to them, we have got proof in our history that prohibition doesn't work, and that the fact that addictions is actually a health issue, not a criminal issue. And why should the police have to manage people that have addictions? It should be a health issue. And as far as the children are concerned, there's no safety nets for our children right now, and hasn't been for how long prohibition's been in force. So as soon as we have the regulation, which is what has been recommended in the referendum, that an age limit of minimum of 20 years old, we know that R18 brings in a different type of level of care and resources needed to help young people at least have another side of the story given to them through education, and giving them really really good information to make an informed choice, whether they want to partake it as a social, personal use, or they want to use it for medicinal.
Now, on top of this question of is it going to be bad for the kids, I had a discussion with somebody on the NZPP page this morning, and because of course the thing is, the kids will just get it. It'll be chaos. Now, I want to ask them: is that so? Did all those kids you knew that used cannabis once? Did that destroy them? Were there no other factors of any kind? Were there no family problems, no lack of role models, no poverty, abuse, trauma, or any one of 1,000 sociological reasons that lead to drug addiction and or antisocial behaviour? They just smoked it once and whammo, destroyed, right? Was that what happened? Did the drug dealers ask them for ID, do safety checks on the cannabis, have a licence to sell it, or licensed premises? Does cannabis use on the weekend cause 70% of all injuries requiring emergency services, 30% of police offences, 34% of family violence, 50% of homicides? Because the source on that is Simon Power, the former Minister of Justice, talking about New Zealand's alcohol statistics. So why are these people not trying to get everyone who drinks locked up and have their lives destroyed by an unjust law? I mean, alcohol prohibition stopped everyone from drinking and ran organised crime into the ground, didn't it? So do you believe that kids with seizures deserve to suffer and or be locked in jail because cannabis is the only thing that works for them, No,
I don't believe that that's fair, that our people get locked up for medical reasons. Trauma is trauma. There are victims and perpetrators, and we know through the black market there's no age restriction. All those people really want is the dollar. And in my way of thinking, and a lot of people thinking, is you de-glamorise, say, smoking cannabis at a really early age is going to help young people say, actually, because it's legal, I don't think I even want to be bothered. Because in most teenagers' lives, we want to have that rebellious gene in us that says, nah, I'm going to do it my way. And, unless you're of a strong mind and can get past all the social
peer pressure
things that pop up, and peer pressure, we have to teach our young people it's okay not to as well, and legalizing cannabis is not going to be compulsory for a start. It's going to be a personal choice.
I believe it should be compulsory, yeah, but I think
No.
I'm just joking, of course. It was one thing Bill Hicks said in one of his things. You know, a whole bunch of mellow people in an entire world that really don't want to do things that they don't want to do. I think it would be a better world if it was mandatory, even though that would be tyrannical to do so.
Yeah, just a little bit. But, you know, the best we can look forward to is having a regulated market. And that's going to suit a whole lot of people. And that's, you know, generally mainstream people that want to be law-abiding by law. And most of us want to be that way. 99% of the time, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I pay all my, you know, my GSTs and bills and everything. Everyone wants to be part of a society that's working. And what the pandemic has highlighted is how wrong everything's been.
How so?
And we need to change that new outlook. We need to be looking outside queer. We've had these programs called think tank projects last year, I think it was, or even the year before, about the hemp industry and the cannabis industry, the economics of all of those, part of what's going to change our environment. You know, we're looking at our environment and how it's being destroyed by us, mankind, through all sorts of things that have changed over time. And in the foresight and reflection, there was a lot of decisions that were made that we shouldn't have made, like plastic, for example. We should be doing hemp biofuels, hemp packaging, hemp houses, hemp for health, hemp for jobs, and same with cannabis for jobs. You know, that's what we're voting for really at the end of the day on the draft control bill, because it's only a draft, so there's still lots of work to do on it, particularly for my cottage industry. I'm not sure where I fit into the regime of licenses and things like that.
Do you fear, are you concerned about a corporate takeover of the cannabis trade, perhaps by the alcohol companies?
Oh, look, there's always going to be that, because we're in that society of corporate corruption and self-wanting. You know, it's not about us at the lower level. It's about them controlling us. So what we need to do is actually try and put enough energy into putting control for us. So if that means putting written submissions, and again, through the next lot of drafting that will happen in the control bill, that's where we can have some sort of input. Otherwise, it's all going to be token gestures,
so to speak.
They'll still, yes, exactly, and they're still going to control us no matter what. However, I do think that we do need regulations.
To a degree, indeed. Now, somebody in the chat offered the explanation that cannabis is technically legal for medicinal purposes in New Zealand at this time, and I replied, yes, technically it's legal, but doctors refuse to prescribe it, and even if they did prescribe it, the only option is watered-down, alcohol-based, prohibitively expensive extracts made by foreign companies who are having great difficulty importing it. It's only illegal at the moment to grow your own medicine, give it to people in need, process it in any way, or use it yourself. Remember, medical cannabis will be legal in 100 days. That was roughly 1,000 days ago that the government made that statement. And, you know...
Vinny, lots of things have happened in that time. You know, really they can only say what they want to say, and the reality is what it ends up being. At least we have got the medicinal cannabis passed. It is legal as of the 1st of April this year. In my area up here in the Hokianga, far north, the doctors are prescribing. At least they are giving my name as a provider to the ones that need it up here. I know there is a few doctors down the line that are open-minded and are doing exactly the same, giving my name as a provider. And if I get those people coming to me and I can't help them, I pass them on to other people that can. So, but in general rule, at the moment, I would say 85% of our medical professionals aren't on board, and the rest are. So for the small amount that are, there is relief. And they do know that it's expensive. And that's why these green fairies that are used as providers.
And another told me that I said that there's only really a handful of doctors in this country who do prescribe it, but there's very little training in medical school, and I'm not sure if there's been many attempts by the Ministry of Health to teach the rest of the doctors who aren't on board about it. And the doctors I spoke to at North Shore Hospital categorically stated that, quote, there's no evidence of medicinal benefits of cannabis. And those people who are prescribed it, on the other hand, it doesn't cost $20 a gram like it does on the black market. It's more closer to $500 or $800 plus per month legally.
That's right. Well, we know that Sevatax, the spray, is minimum $1,200 for a patient. And if you go to a GP that has medicinal cannabis license, it's going to cost you a fortune just to go and see him. So there's $300 just for a consultation. So that's what the professional looks like. They'll be able to prescribe, but at a high cost again. And, really, there's no reason why these our doctors can't learn about cannabis, because I've done it. I've passed my diploma in medicinal cannabis and CBD oils with extinction. And it's done through an online learning school, which is based in the UK. It's called School of Excellence. Anybody can do it. It costs a fraction of what it costs to go to a school, like a real school. So this is online learning. You can do it at your own pace. And honestly, you learn so much. You don't need to be a GP to know about medicinal cannabis.
Only to prescribe it at this moment. My concern is my concern. Sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt, Maki. I just think that my great concern is that when people bring in laws to allow certain things, people will look at the law and go, "Oh, that's cool." But in my opinion, it's all about how the law has been applied. For example, under the Misuse of Drugs Act, it was legal to use cannabis as a medicine. You just needed approval from the Ministry of Health, whom for decades gave zero approvals. It put the awful into lawful, and the first approval was given to Rose Renton's son, but the MOH delayed the approval till just days before he died.
That's right. And how shameful of them to do that. And that's how shameful that our government allows this type of behaviour to continue. So the fight is not over, for medicinal cannabis. There's still a whole lot to be fought for. And that's for us organic growers. Even though they say we can grow 2 plants per person but 4 plants per household, there's still that underlying criminal intent that they have, that fear factor put upon us and trying to make us believe the fear of it still being a criminal act. Until we have a certainty about how that really does look and how they're going to manage it, and that means how are they going to police it. And same with recreational smoking of cannabis, personal use, personal choice. How are they going to manage it? Are they going to have a brand new force of police detectives out there scanning us? So, there's still some underlying concerns for us, but at least we've started. And that's what I want to acknowledge, is that we're on the way to making a difference, and it can only happen at the voting booth, and that's voting yes for the Cannabis Control Bill. I don't like the word control, and a lot of us don't like the word control. However, it's only a terminology, and if you don't vote for anything other than the referendum, whether it be the cannabis one or the euthanasia life one, show the vote by being there and doing it, because that's proof, that's data. that New Zealanders are ready to move on and make it legal. Don't be fooled that it's going to be legal straight after the election, because it's only a draft copy, right? So it won't be until the next election, when they want your vote again, that it becomes legal.
Let's think about this as well. It's a non-binding referendum, so theoretically whomever does gain power within New Zealand can, legally speaking, just say, no, I don't care if 99% of people wanted cannabis legal in this country. I don't want it legal because the people who pay me from the pharmaceutical companies and the alcohol companies don't want no competition.
That's right, but that's, we're still going to be protesting, we're still going to have the live J days and things like that. That it's not going to go away. We are not going away. We are still going to be fighting the fight. And as a small party who's always been at the top level of the small party regime, we've been here for 25 years advocating for personal use, personal choice, as well as the medicinal, as well as the hemp industry. And that's not going to change until we have it. So, just because we've got a referendum doesn't mean our party's going to be breaking up soon and saying, oh, our job's done, because it's not. There's a whole lot of issues that haven't been even looked at that we need to work through. And giving us the vote is going to at least show the government that we've always been serious about what we platform on, which is legalization of cannabis.
Now, on top of this, what about negative side effects? I mean, a lot of people take pharmaceutical drugs and they have side effects like death or brain hemorrhages or blackouts or extreme headaches, permanent personality changes. In fact, I could sit here for several hours and list off negative side effects from current approved pharmaceutical drugs, whereas the negative side effects of cannabis is happy, hungry, thirsty, sleepy, and I haven't actually seen any other kind of side effects in my experience.
Well, the side effects really, Vinny, is the black market. What people have to do to go and get their cannabis. That is the side effect. The side effect is the law and what it does to us. Like I've just upgraded my car and I had 6 brokers refuse me insurance because of my cannabis conviction. And that's after 5 years. I'm still being punished. Just for an insurance policy. Oh, my God. That's why I'm still so passionate about where I'm at in this climate of politics. Someone needs to be out there pushing it. And there are a whole lot of groups that are doing all the hashtags, the Green Party. So, we're just one link to all of the big pictures of the jigsaw puzzle.
How do you feel about being involved in terms of the Cannabis Party has been involved in this fight for 25 years? How much progress has been made on the issue during that time? We're actually seeing significant progress in terms of, let's say, Auckland policing, where I believe the Central Auckland Police decreed that unless somebody's cannabis use was determined to be a danger to the community, they would not be charged if they're arrested.
That's right. But, that doesn't stop them going into people's homes and still doing the bust and smashing their lights and taking their plants and then walk away and say, don't do it again. Because it's happened. It's happened up here in the Hokianga a number of times since, their discretion has been allowed. So it all depends. If you're agitator in the business, then you're going to be picked on. If you're transparent like myself, and our local cop has, given me the okay, go for it, Maki. And as long as you're transparent in what you do, there's no reason for them to come into your home. And I say to all the people that are signing up for the medicinal cannabis, make sure your doctors know that you're doing it, taking it, because that is the data. If they want evidence, let us be the data for our doctors to say.
Is there a future where this will no longer be an issue? That's what I'm looking for, because in the last 10,000 years of recorded history, there is not one death that has been directly attributed to cannabis, whereas in every year, according to the Hemp Bible, 10,000 people by caffeine alone die in the United States.
Yeah, that's right. You're talking to the converted. We know that there hasn't, if you're just doing cannabis alone, there's no reason there's going to be any death. Even if you smoke yourself stupid, you're going to just sleep. You're not going to be any harm to anybody other than you're going to be feeling, oh my gosh, maybe I smoked too much tonight. Well, go to bed and sleep it off. But if you're mixing, like alcohol, methamphetamine, cannabis, cocaine, and tripping pills as well, of course that's going to kill you. That is the fact.
That reminded me of a interesting thought process. A man takes a puff on a joint, then he gets shot by the police, runs into a burning building, and then a air conditioning unit falls on him. What killed him? According to the... According to the statistics.
Right. Statistics, whatever the question, you can make the question work for you in this, and when you're doing a poll or doing such things like that and getting statistics, it's a monopoly that anyone can make. So, but the proof's in the pudding. Medicinal cannabis has been around for eons, since the beginning of time.
Well, literally, if I may, since the beginning of civilization itself, because mankind's first crop, the reason why we even developed cities and settlements was the cannabis crop. We literally owe civilization itself to the cannabis plant.
Well, the resources that come from it are just, amazing, precious, and there's so much to it than just smoking a joint or having a spot. Those things, those media exposures to the stoner's life has portrayed lazy stoners, as they call us. Well, there's a whole lot of us lazy stoners that get out and do the work behind the scenes. And they're really good people, that don't make judgment. Instead, what they do is they help people.
Imagine for a moment that there were no stoners. How much work would actually be really getting done out there? Because when people come home from a job they hate, working for a boss they dislike, the only way that they've got to actually cope with that fact in some cases is cannabis. Now, I believe in The Guardian many years ago, maybe not that many, it was revealed that in the UK, people who were classed as habitual cannabis users for recreational purposes, all, actually in fact had underlying health conditions, which unbeknownst to them, the cannabis was helping to treat. All cannabis use is medicinal, therefore.
Well, it goes hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So if you've been a recreational smoker, you thought all your life, and you wonder why you don't get so many illnesses, and maybe you don't get the flu so often and things like. Well, of course it's the cannabis. It's our super plants. Having raw cannabis in a smoothie is our superfood, one of the superfoods. Simple as that.
Well, you have a endocannabinoid system. Indeed, almost every sentient organism since the Mesozoic era. All right, since literally fish were crawling out of the water onto the land, they had endocannabinoid systems. My wife's breast milk has the endocannabinoids in it, which helps to stimulate my little baby's appetite so she can drink more and become stronger and better. It is indeed the builder and the regulator of all cellular activity in the body, and it's illegal.
And you'll find that you'll have a lot more calmer baby as well.
And we do. We really do.
Mm.
Now, on from this, there is the hemp discussion to get into, but let's continue with the recreational for a moment. Now, I when I was in university, where I got busted for selling cannabis, I was going to go to jail for up to 8 years for the possession of 13 grams of cannabis for sale. All right, for a first offence, no diversion. Now, that was what destroyed my life. That was what has given me complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which I've yet to be able to shake. So my nervous system is actually overridden by the fear of those days. And now whenever I see cops, my nervous system goes back into fight or flight response, and I can't stop that from happening. The cannabis did not do that to me. The law did. And when I was a drug dealer, only people who wanted it came to me. Is that fair?
Well, in hindsight, of course it's not fair, because when you're providing a medicine such as cannabis to people that need it, regardless whether they smoke it or make it into a oil or whatever they do with it, make it into a cookie, that's their privilege. That's what one has. That's why you have a choice of what you do with it. But because, the monopoly of prisons and the status of prison and the privatisation of prisons, you've got to keep bums on seats so those privatisation companies can make their money. So that's why prohibition is there. It feeds one part of the society, and it's not ours. I mean, even my conviction, I was looking at 7 years imprisonment for cultivation, and I got 12 months home detention. So, and yes, it is a trauma that nobody wants to go through. What leads you to a lot of anxiety, pressure, is not necessarily being busted, but what comes after that, which is the court proceedings. So you might have to end up going to court maybe a dozen times before they decide that it's okay now that we're going to sentence you. And then they lead you up the garden path to say, well, this is the worst scenario. And you hope like hell that it's not going to be the worst scenario. So, yeah, it comes with a lot of traumas and anxiety, and keep up with the cannabis oils and your cannabis. And, that helps. There are techniques that we need to learn if we suffer PTSD. And those are the sort of things we need to be educating people on, is how to cope.
And directly after getting busted, when I got home, I found that the cops had forgotten to confiscate my very resiny pipe. And so I immediately smoked it, and I immediately felt better, and that was the interesting thing, is that the trauma from getting busted from cannabis can be healed by cannabis. And it's like a snake eating its own tail.
Exactly, Vinny. And, I used my conviction to start my self-employment business. And I started at the ground level doing, giving it to my own family, whānau in Pawaringa, a couple of older kaumātua cancer. And honestly, that was the beginning of the flourishing of my business, was my own whānau, because they've seen it work. So I used my conviction to actually throw it back in their faces, as it were.
Well, it's good that the Cannabis Party's people are willing to stand by their convictions, unlike most politicians.
So this is me and my product.
A little bit to the centre there, Maki.
I'm trying.
There you go, that's good.
Yeah. No, hang on. No, I'm terrible at these things, sorry.
A little bit further back. Basically, put it right in front of your face is the general one, right in front of your face, and then straight forward and stop. Perfect. Maki's Cannabis Essential Remedy Cannabis Roots and THC infused rice bran oil, made in Mangamuka, far north Hokianga, Aotearoa.
Yep. So that's me, and I do postal orders all over New Zealand, as well as to Australia.
So how can people get in touch with you if they do need some rongoa?
And
am I pronouncing it correctly? Somebody gave me a bit of flack yesterday for not pronouncing koha correctly.
Yeah, that sounds correct enough to me. Koha, rongoa. So there's a sound. There's similar. Koha, rongoa. and rongoa being medicine.
So let's get on to medicinal hemp, but just before we do, not medicinal hemp, industrial hemp, which is actually the real game changer here. One can heal everything that is happening with the human body. The other tends to be able to heal every problem that the planet is having at the moment, our planetary body to a large degree. Right, that's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
But just before we do, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to remind you that this is a listener-supported broadcast. If you do believe that the minor parties do deserve some kind of media coverage of any kind, believe me when I tell you, I'm the one who's giving it to them, and very few other media outlets will give them 30 seconds, let alone 60 minutes of airtime. I have been doing so for over a decade, reliably and consistently, without fail, ladies and gentlemen. If you want me to stop doing this job, if you want me to stop supporting those who tell the truth, if you want me to stop supporting those people who are fighting for freedom in this country and every other, you're going to have to take my life, because that's the only thing that's going to stop me. So I want you to go to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. That's Vinny with a Y, because it's the most important question. And Eastwood, like, go ahead. Make my news. And go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, click the drop-down bars on those little PayPal buttons there and think about starting a automatic payment, whether it be weekly or monthly, whether it be $1 a week or $300 a month, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever you can spare in your own capacity is what we are after. Now, this is called the peer-to-peer economy, where instead of me taking all the risk and manufacturing a product and then hoping that people purchase it, the people who know that this is a good product for society give freely of themselves so that the product can continue to be manufactured. That product being the news, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you might not be talking about current events, but if you have not heard all the information on this show, it's still news to you, isn't it? So again, links in the description and on the homepage of the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. Furthermore, I do want to thank all of my donors, all of my mods as well. We've got Benny Mack and Richard Fredland and a number of others in the chat room there moderating and keeping out the riff-raff. So this is a team effort, folks. I may be the man behind the curtain, pulling all the levers and making all the fire and the smoke come out. But at the end of the day, I have not created all of this apparatus alone, ladies and gentlemen. It has been through your support that I was able to begin and that I am able to continue. And long may it continue. So, Maki, let's talk about industrial hemp. At the moment, there are a lot of industrial products that people might be using, whether that be shampoo and conditioner, or whether it be pillows and beds, whether that be fireproof doors and car paneling, all of which can actually be made from hemp. According to one study, between 25,000 and 50,000 industrial products that we use on a daily basis could, in fact, be manufactured by hemp. That means you don't need to do mining. That means you don't need to engage in forestry. That means you don't need to do any amount of poisonous and destructive measures that we often engage in order to accrue raw resources from this planet. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Oh, gosh. Like you just mentioned, endless amount of resources available just from the hemp plant. My favourite is that you grow a 2-acre piece of land with hemp on it. That's equivalent to a 3-bedroom home. Hemp bricks. Up here in the far north, we're desperate for jobs. And I suppose we've got a forward-thinking runanga. It's a unit of representation from all the marae and hapu in the far north. They are actually looking into the hemp industry. So what that looks like is a refinery of some sort, apprenticeships, because, any new industry is going to need people to continue the work as it gets more developed. And that's a good thing about the hemp industry. It has got an endless amount of potential here in New Zealand as being one of the main things that can help bring us out of the recession that we're in, and we start being New Zealand made again instead of sending everything overseas. When they privatised all of New Zealand's factories everybody went overseas. And now, see, this is the pandemic has shown us that we need to be New Zealand made. And the hemp industry has got to be part of that picture. You know, we need to lose the pine trees. Well, a lot of the pine trees, we still need alternative building materials. But the hemp industry, the hemp plant just is so beneficial to the land, to the whenua. It regenerates, revitalises, it detox. So if a farmer was to plant a 3-metre hedge along their waterways, it's going to save our water, because what the hemp plant does, it filters everything out of all the toxins out of the water and only releases good water. And then what do you do with the hemp hedge when it's done its season? You chop it down and make it into rope or into a canvas or something that's not going to be up against the skin and things like that, because obviously the plant has got all those toxins in it. So you put it through a wash and break it down and make it into rope, which is what they used to do in the good old days. You know, Donaghy's, I can remember the factory called Donaghy's that made New Zealand rope. And man, that employment itself was thousands of people just for rope. So if one part of that picture creates 1,000 jobs, imagine what 1,000 products does for us.
Imagine what 25,000 would do. My big braingasm when I went to the iHemp Summit in Wellington, and thank you to my listener Vincent for buying my ticket down there. Oh no, sorry, that was Wayne that bought me there. Anyway, was 3D printing and hemp plastics. Hemp plastics, biodegradable and super tough as well, and can be hooked up with 3D printers. So we could, if theoretically, New Zealand could become the manufacturing hub of the South Pacific. We have the great hemp growing conditions. We have many people who are using arable land to farm cows and things of that nature, especially in the Waikato, that could in fact be turned to be using hemp. And then through the technological advancement of 3D printing, we could manufacture the world's products here.
And that's where we should be going back to, is our roots, and making new products out of new things that have always been second-class sort of economies, you know. So let's just make it. Just do it. What have we got to lose, for goodness sake? What we've got to lose is that we'll still have high unemployment. What we'll have to lose is our economy. You know, we don't need to be exporting at this stage. What we need to be doing is making everything ourselves.
Becoming self-sufficient in an interdependent world would make us the leaders of this world.
That's right, definitely.
So this is not just about a plant. Cannabis, the plant itself, is political.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately. You know, if the stigma was taken off cannabis and seen for its potentials and properties, which is, you know, we're coming into that now, and people are seeing the benefits. However, you know, when you've got the one world order happening, and it trickles down to our governments and authorities, it sort of gets a bit, it doesn't get the highlights that it needs, because we have all these side attractions happening that change our views and puts, you know, cannabis has always been put in the background, hasn't it? And it's only for criminals. Well, it's not. You know, hemp and cannabis are the same plant, just different flowers.
And if hemp, and at the moment people would say that, hey, hemp is legal, and while technically true, much like the medicinal example, there's so much red tape and regulations upon it that it may as well be illegal. In fact, I believe hemp seed, hulled hemp seed, was only just recently made legal.
Yeah, and again, how shameful of the authorities. This, you know, like the cannabis and the hemp licenses is under the Ministry of Health. You know, so Ministry of health have always had a monopoly and self-interest in the prohibition and licensing, who gets it, who's not allowed to get it. At the end of the day, what I'd like to see is that all our convictions for cannabis is reimbursed with a hemp license at least. And if you don't want to do it, well, that's your choice. But, if that's something that gives you a step into the business room that you want to go and make a business for yourself and your family, well, why not? But the thing with the hemp industry and the regulations at the moment, that there's only one part of the plant that's allowed to be used, and that's the seeds. You can't even use the stem and the roots of the plant. I mean, how ridiculous. So, there's still lots and lots of things to be fighting for both sides.
And I think the nescience of the population, which is the dovetail to ignorance. Ignorance is the information's there, but I'm going to ignore it. Nescience is the information is there, but I've never been presented with it. The nescience of the public and the ignorance of the public needs to be addressed simultaneously. Now, I think that to a large degree, social politics is to blame for this because there's a stigma, isn't there, Maki?
Yeah, there is. And, when we're all been sheep, we've all been herded into the cattle yard or the mutton shed, the wool shed, and we've just done what we've been told. And there has been a demise in our society, I think, that the people haven't had enough of a say. What in politics it's the staffers behind the MPs that put the policies together, and the MPs are only the messengers. I don't think many people know that behind the scenes is what really is happening. And those staffers have been around for a long time. They don't get changed. Governments get changed. Staffers don't. And that's the bureaucracy and democracy, as they say.
That's true. And indeed, in Alistair Barry's documentary a number of years ago, he... I'm not sure if he exposed the fact, but he certainly provided evidence to the fact that when a new Prime Minister is elected, the first thing that happens is they go into the Prime Minister's office where they are met by members from the Treasury Department who tell them, thank you very much, or rather, congratulations on your winning, Mr. or Mrs. Prime Minister. Unfortunately, the government previous has an enormous economic problem that's been building up in the background. And if you keep any of your election promises, any of them, the economy is going to collapse and you are going to be to blame. So here's a whole bunch of measures for austerity, privatisation, i.e. Agenda 21, the New World Order agenda, that you need to implement, otherwise we'll collapse the economy. That means we are a captive state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are. We're at the mercy of those at the top.
Now, that's not the right thing to do to a large degree. And James Corbett has done a recent interview where he identified a 500-year-old document that applies very, very much to today's problems that we're dealing with. And what this document stated specifically is that it is not fear of government. It is not fear of reprisals from those in authority that allows tyrants to continue to reign, that allows injustice to continue to be perpetrated upon the people. It is the indifference of the people itself that is to blame. If you are indifferent, you don't get up, you don't resist, you don't speak up, you don't change things. And so that is the true enemy at the moment. It is not the bureaucrats, it is not the authoritarians, it is not the globalists, it is our own unwillingness to oppose them. So, Maki, I wonder if you could actually speak to that and tell us perhaps a story of people who have decided and have stood up, and the differences they've made, not only in your life, but in the lives of others.
Okay, so I suppose I'm going to be talking about my Māori side, my tino rangatiratanga. And to me, what that means is my self-determination. So my business is my self-determination. I don't oblige by a NZQA qualification. I don't oblige by a license. I don't oblige to the tax department. And it's because I'm out here helping people. I really can't see why I can't do what I'm doing. My integrity is the number one component to me doing what I do. However, I do try to be in line with the regulations as much as I possibly can. So what that means is that I've self-educated myself and got a diploma in medicinal cannabis and CBD oil. I've done the business courses, computer courses, to know what businesses looks like and what it entails. I know my client base. I believe in, if you have a passion in something and you want to do something with it, find your niche and make it yours. Sometimes you have to overlook the negatives to get to your goal. I mean, I've been making rongoa for 4 years, and I've only just become self-employed. And it's not necessarily working for somebody else, of course, being self-employed. It's working towards healing people in my business and giving them quality of life. There's no guarantees that our products are going to cure. There's no cure. Even in mainstream thinking, it's cancer treatments. It's not cancer cures. So if you believe in something that you can do or make, do it. Don't let the fear factor be the fear not to do it. So that's my story. I believe in what I do, and I believe that a lot of people have the passion of doing what they do and just don't know how.
Speaking of people who don't know... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, we lead by example. Sorry.
We do lead by example. Now, we also had Arathian Brightstar in the chat room who wanted to know how can she contact Maki Herbert to get some rongoa for herself.
Okay, well, she can go to my Facebook page and request a message, through Messenger.
Fair enough.
So
nice and easy.
Okay. Yeah, nice and easy. No consultation fees.
Okay, and final words here, Maki.
Okay, people, for me, as a co-leader of Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party, our platform this year is solely about the yes vote, the Cannabis Control Bill. I've said it before, I don't care who you vote for, whether you give us a party vote or an individual vote. The most important thing is that you're enrolled, ready to go to the polling booth and make that big decision of, yes, we need to do this. We won't get legalisation if we don't show our numbers, and the numbers are shown through the referendum, the voting yes. So if you don't want to vote, you're letting down the rest of the country that need your vote. One vote plus one vote plus one vote plus one vote, your vote plus your vote and your vote all counts. It all matters. It means everything. So please, please, please help us make that journey into the next forward step that we need to do to show the authorities that we're serious about, yes, this is what we want with regulations. And thank you for listening to us today.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Maki, for your time and expertise.
Thanks, Vinny.
Have yourself a lovely day, eh?
And you too. And it was lovely to see you again.
I get that a lot. So thank you very much, Maki Herbert, there from the Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party. You can check them out at alcp.org.nz. Thank you very much, Maki. All right, there she goes, Maki Herbert. Ladies and gentlemen, now I do want to remind you again that this is a listener-supported broadcast and has been for over a decade. I went into the doctor yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, and unfortunately I've developed a I don't know, kind of like golfer's elbow in my left elbow. So I've been having to actually do this show one-armed, essentially. And the doctors informed me that it may take up to 2 years of physical therapy for me to gain the use of my left elbow again. So that's really quite inconvenient. I mean, it's not painful if I don't move it, that kind of thing. But just bear with us, and hopefully you can support the show a little bit more, considering my current disability. So we've got the NZPP thing, what's it called? At the Logan Campbell Centre, NZPP, Billy is going to be giving a presentation, and I believe there's several thousand seats there, ladies and gentlemen, and over 1,200 car parks. Okay, there are 1,200 car parks, several thousand seats in that theatre, and we want to fill each and every one of them. Now, we've had some comments from a number of people about the jokes on the show. Most people like them. Most people enjoy them. In fact, it's the reason why you tune in, apparently, according to many comments. However, at the moment, guys, I've been preaching to the converted for over 10 years. What fruit has it wrought? When we start the show and things of that nature, we're going into a proper professional election this time, and I'm trying to tone it down. I'm trying to be a bit more professional, just as an experiment for the next 30 days to see if we can get some ordinary people who perhaps are not quite as up with the play as my wonderful, wonderful audience is, who just accused me of getting tennis elbow from too much wanking. No, I use my right hand for that. Now, the other element I do want to, again, thank Benny Mac and Richard Fredland and all the rest of my wonderful mods in the chat room, Richard Bonner, as well, for all of your help, keeping out the riffraff, and just basically being good moderators, putting in the links and all of that kind of stuff. I know you appreciate the sense of humour, but it's just going to be an experiment for the next month. And if it's successful, we will continue with it, perhaps until the election's over. But then, of course, we're going to go straight back into ordinary Vinny Eastwood programming, unless, of course, there's some kind of reason why it's a really bad idea, or I get deleted, or I don't know what the reasons are, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, we're going to experiment with a little less humour, a little less flamboyancy for the next 30 days, and try and conduct these interviews with a little bit of professionalism, or my approximation of it. So again, thank you very much for all of you for letting us thank you very much to everybody who listens. Thank you very much everybody who likes the videos. Thank you very much for everybody who subscribes. Thank you very much to everybody who clicks the little bell next to the subscribe button that gives you all the notifications for the live streams and everything. Thank you, guys. Now that's just supporting us on YouTube. Also on Facebook, Twitter, Library, BitChute, and a number of other platforms, ladies and gentlemen. All the links are in the description. There are so many ways to support the Vinny Eastwood Show, and I'm really, really grateful for every single one of you that does so. Donations are, of course, absolutely must-haves at the moment, because my wife cannot work while she's looking after my baby, and now because of my injury, the reason for my injury, ladies and gentlemen, according to the doctor, holding my baby too much. That's what she actually said. I got repetitive strain syndrome basically on my elbow because for the last 3 and a bit months of my baby's life, I have been holding her many, many hours every day and showing her some love. So with that being said, do want to show you a little bit of this to give you an idea.
My mama loves
There
us.
you go.
Daddy loves you so much because you're just so cute. All right, that's enough. That's enough.
It's my Papa. It's so cute. Oh my God. Oh my God, I love that baby. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening to the Vinny Eastwood Show. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't make it fun. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state is Vinny's jokes.